This is the bike car I built for my young son, and it has proven itself, and we've done many long and rough trips in it, spring-loaded suspension and all that, but it needs a few tweaks. This was kind of a slapper together, and we hope to go to the 150th Gettysburg reenactment, and having been there once before, I really don't want to have to drive the truck around and tour. We're hoping to do it on the bikes. So I want to get this all fixed up for him and kind of surprise him. And I was going to go for a World War II fighter plane motif, I think, with some shark jaws there on the front end. But there's some bits that are heavier than they need to be, and there's an unnecessary complexity in that dog bone on the rear axle, and it doesn't need the rear point, it only needs the front point, and what that does is it allows that axle to roll and hop. So I hope to remove that part, strip her down, and paint her, and in so doing I can show you how I made it. So there's the basic structure of the rear axle. The axle itself works surprisingly well. What I don't need, however, is pivot points here and here. That allows that axle, instead of just going straight up and down, it allows it to twist, contributing to some axle hop. So one of the things we're going to do is eliminate those two joints. It'll give me some decent spare replacement parts anyways. And those will then be mounted permanent. So the bars will just come off of here straight, terminating in one of the tie rod ends. And I'll use just that for my adjustment. I don't need this much adjustment. So those have got to be rebuilt. These are a series of coil springs. I believe each one was 15 or 20 pounds. I'd have to go check. I shoot for something soft enough to move and give my little guy a decent ride, but something that I would hold his weight at least for a while. This is PVC foam board, and so I think you can see in there I created a groove for the top of the coil spring, fits in there tightly, and then I cut these out. They're held in place with, on these two, I've got tabletop clips, one on either side, and in the center one I've got a large washer. And so they're actually held up to the bottom of the car itself. And originally I was going to use that for my side-to-side, keep the axle trapped. It didn't work. It didn't work in that it allowed that axle to mush around, and then the car would start jerking and whatnot. But with that radius bar right there, which attaches right here, that problem was solved. And then the underside needs to be coated and painted with some additional body work up on the top, and some welds that need to be cleaned up or whatnot. The front of it is the curved front of some sort of commercial grade floor washing scrubber machine. Anyways, it had this little cart, and this was the nose piece, and I used that simply because it was already curved. And then those are bunk bed rails, which turned out to be a crappy thing to build it out of because it's hardened spring steel and is dang near impossible to drill. But there you have it. Well, I've got the body work ready for painting, at least as ready for painting as I can do it. I'm a very poor body man. I can't make it do what I want it to do, but paint will stick and it should look good, and shark mouth will hide all. I don't have much of the highly metallic silver that I want to use to coat the body, so I'm going to go over the whole thing with white first, so that I don't have any show-throughs. Using the white as a primer. I think it'll work fine. There it is with his first base coat of silver. It'll need another one. Unfortunately, it highlights graphic extent just how poor the body work is, but he's 3. He won't notice that until he's much older, and then it'll be endearing. So Maybe we'll put a little battle damage or something like that on the side of it. Still got to come up with some sort of propeller. I don't want to make it any heavier. Here it is with the base coat of silver all done, which is good because I'm more or less out of silver. I got the inside of the fenders ground and welded up where I changed the two spots to give the wheels more room. And I have removed my super heavy duty tie rod and attachment points so that they're ready to weld on my much lighter and hopefully equally as strong solid attachment mounts. That's a little ugly, but what are you going to do? And so those are slotted so they slip in. It gives it a really nice tight weld. So with luck I didn't blast the bearings with too much grinding crap, and we'll be ready to piece the rear axle together soon, just as soon as I figure out how far apart they need to be. So here's the new rear axle subassembly, ready to be cleaned and painted. It's substantially lighter weight than previous. In order to screw in here, all I did was cut one of the existing dog bones there in half. So all of this weight has been removed. And that's, you know, it's only a few pounds. That's it's a fair percentage of the total weight. The mounting points that I had on here originally were very excessive. So those have been removed, saving a few more ounces there. And then these are hardened steel bars from a child's crib. So I'm hoping to get decent strength and life out of those. And the whole thing is a little more side to side rigid and well within the adjustment ability of these. Now I need to clean it and paint it. And there's the axle assembly repainted. Made some changes. For instance, I have now cotter keyed that outside nut, which means I won't need that nut anymore as a jam nut, and these can both move down. It'll end up moving the axles out another 1/4 of an inch on each side, so another 1/2 inch total, but it can't hurt anything. And here are the fenders, sanded, smooth, and painted. And this time I went with a black satin. I think that'll look good with the painted body. So I'm going to let this harden up just a little more, and then I am ready to reassemble the suspension and start putting at least the rear axle back on. There's the rear suspension hung in place, though I still have to connect up the front pivot points and lateral support. But that's at least the springs in. There's the suspension attached. Now I just need to find a common point on both sides that I can measure to center the axle. Though by the looks of the springs, it's pretty good right now. Now this is 1/2 inch all thread, and these are in theory 1/2 inch bearings. Now whether it's because the wheels are cheap and this is all Chinese and it's metric, or because it's all thread and not a solid rod, there's some slop. So what I've done is I take very, very thin strips of aluminum, and they go around about half the shaft, and then you sort of get them started like this, and you slide your wheel up and over. I usually do them on the bottom. Slide your wheel up and over, and yeah, about that 3/4 of an inch thickness, width, sorry, about that 3/4 of an inch width, wrapped around, takes all the slop out. If you don't, as you go, your wheels will actually roll around the outside edge of the shaft. And I don't know how long that thread would survive doing that, but I bet it's not very long. So this way there's none of that. It'd be like driving your car around with your lug nuts loose. It's just not going to survive banging around like that very long. And that's got the cart back down on her wheels. So to recap what I've done, I reworked, I guess we would call the hub here, in order to move my wheels another yay so far out, giving my little guy a little more stability. We tipped this over once. That was my incentive. The gap looks about right there. I've also inserted, I don't know if they'll stay, I don't know if I like them, I don't know if I'll take them out, but I've inserted a second set of springs inside the cage of the larger set in order to give me, God, they're so noisy. Adjusting them will have a huge effect. Take them loose, twist them, put them back in, and just find out which one is making the noise, and then as soon as you get it adjusted, it stops. But I don't know. The other option would be to come back in here. You know, he's getting bigger, and so to buy another one of these springs, and then space two of them on that rear axle. And that'll be the next step. If I don't like what happens here, I'll move this one, and we'll split the difference there, and I'll build another. I don't even remember how I did that, but I'll find a way to duplicate it again, and that'll give my little guy another 15 pounds in theory. So hopefully having them out farther is not going to interfere with my fenders. I know my fenders stuck out too far, so it's not going to interfere this way, but it means that my axle can move farther at the tires now. So we'll see. Should be good to go. I got some ugly speckles in the paint because the gun was barfing a little, but yeah, again, he's 3. His expectations are pretty low. But you put a shark mouth in the front of it, some Mustang exhaust pipes sticking out the side there, and by gosh, we'll have ourselves a race car, or a airplane, or a train, or a shark, you know, whatever he's in the mood for that day. Starting to go back together. Gave the back side of the seat its first coat of paint. Doing that because I want the black better than I want the primer, but also protect it from the sun. And then, though it's rained a few times since now and then, the fenders are done in a black satin. So I reworked the underside of them. This bar used to be on top, so I put it down flat. Then I ground a lot of the unnecessary metal out of the way, and using a rotary sander, sanded them smooth. Just, you know, weight reduction. I figure we've probably already taken maybe 3 pounds of unsprung weight, and maybe another 3 pounds of sprung weight off the unit, so that ain't bad. Anything helps. So a little more sunshine, and she'll be back together, and we'll give her a first maiden test this afternoon. There's the rear strut installed, and what that does is it stops my axle from moving side to side. Tremendous improvement in performance when I put that on for the first time. So, and it's just, you know, like an adjustable drag link sort of thing. Here we have the fenders mounted back on. They just mount in 2 points, there and there, and what they are is the component that was cut out of here to make the opening for the driver's seat. And then his car flag is put on there. He picked the flag out himself. Arg, VeggieTail pirates. There are the orange siding panels back on. These were, they're supposed to be a temporary thing, and yeah, they don't fit particularly well around the top edge there. My wife isn't happy on the colors, but they've sort of become a bulletin board of all the things the kiddo and I have done. See that? That really should have another bolt to hold it in, or be trimmed, or something. So, yeah, for the moment they're back on. If they weren't, he could stick his feet out here, and I was worried on accidents, hooking it on something. But, yuppers. There it is. We gave her a little shakedown cruise, probably 2 miles, something like that. Fortunately, as you can see, Montana springtime's turned back into snow. The bike hitch, completely homemade. Yeah, I don't know. It's just crap I lying around. And that is a Willys Jeep front steering link. So I have got basically the ball, which was pressed out of a steering mount, and then this is a screw, so the cup adjustable drag link kind of thing, and it's inconvenient, but it's what I had handy, and it's been on there for a while now. Seems to work pretty good. To unhook the unit, you have to back out the adjustment, and then it'll pop off, and then I'm left with all this hanging around. But you know, there's a fair bit of weight. I didn't want something chintzy. But yep, he did not get his shark mouth. Still on the list of things to do, but sometimes you just gotta put it back on the road. He loves it though. It was well worth building, and you know, we've run the Hiawatha Trail, bottom to the top and back down, so man style. Entered some bike races with it, mostly as a joke. We weren't competitive, obviously, but no, it's been a great thing. Good way to spend time with your children.